Amara sat in a dimly lit room with her gang, planning their biggest job yet. The air was thick with cigarette smoke and tension. "So what's the plan, boss?" asked Amika, a burly man with a scar across his cheek. Amara leaned forward, her eyes gleaming. "We're going after my father, Prince Uche. He's the reason we're all in this mess. It's time he paid." The room fell silent. Everyone knew Prince Uche was one of the richest men in Nigeria. Going after him was risky, but the potential payoff was huge. "Are you sure about this?" Chidi, the youngest member of the gang, asked nervously. "I mean, he's your father." Amara slammed her fist on the table. "He stopped being my father when he threw us all away like garbage. Now, are you in or out?" The gang members exchanged glances, then nodded one by one. "Good," Amara continued. "I know all his routines, all the ways in and out of his properties. We'll strike tomorrow. I'll lead the operation." As they discussed the details, Amara felt a mix of excitement and bitter anger. In her mind, this was justice for all she'd been through. Meanwhile, across town, Prince Uche sat in his opulent office with his son Chidi. They were celebrating another successful business deal. "Chidi, my son," Prince Uche said, his voice full of pride, "our hard work is really paying off. The new oil refinery is already turning a profit." Chidi nodded, a small smile on his face. "Yes, father. It's been an incredible year." Prince Uche's expression turned serious. "I think it's time we talked about your siblings. I want you to check on them, see if they've learned anything from this experience." Chidi looked surprised. "Are you sure, father? After everything that happened?" Prince Uche sighed. "I didn't send them away to abandon them, Chidi. I wanted them to learn the hard way. But if they've learned to work hard and save money, I'm willing to help them get back on their feet." "And if they haven't?" Chidi asked cautiously. "Then they'll have to remain where they are," Prince Uche said firmly. "This isn't about cruelty. It's about teaching them responsibility." As they made plans to discreetly check on the family, neither of them knew of the danger that was coming their way. The next morning, Amara and her gang put their plan into action. They waited outside Prince Uche's mansion, hidden in a van. "Remember," Amara hissed, "we go in fast, grab him, and get out. No unnecessary violence." The others nodded, checking their weapons one last time. As Prince Uche's car pulled out of the gate, Amara gave the signal. Their van screeched forward, cutting off Prince Uche's car. In a blur of motion, they smashed the car windows and dragged Prince Uche out. "What is the meaning of this?" Prince Uche shouted, struggling against his captors. Amara stepped forward, pulling off her mask. "Hello, father. Long time no see." Prince Uche's eyes widened in shock. "Amara? What? What are you doing?" "Taking back what's mine," Amara snarled. "Get him in the van." As they sped away, Prince Uche's driver, dazed but unharmed, called Chidi in a panic. "Young master," he gasped. "Your father, he's been kidnapped." Chidi felt his world tilt. "What? By who?" I think I saw Miss Amara, sir, but I'm not sure." Chidi's blood ran cold. His own sister. How had things come to this? Back at their hideout, Amara paced in front of Prince Uche, who was tied to a chair. "Why are you doing this, Amara?" Prince Uche asked, his voice sad. "I know things have been difficult, but this isn't the answer." Amara laughed bitterly. "Difficult? You have no idea we've been through. You threw us away like we were nothing." "I was trying to teach you a lesson," Prince Uche replied, "about the value of hard work and responsibility." "Well, here's a lesson for you," Amara snapped. "Actions have consequences. Now you're going to transfer all your money to us, or things are going to get very unpleasant." As Amara laid out her demands, Chidi was frantically trying to find his father. He called in every favor, used every resource at his disposal. "Have you contacted the police?" his assistant asked. Chidi shook his head. "Not yet. If it really is Amara, I want to try to handle this ourselves first." He picked up his phone, scrolling through his contacts. It was time to reach out to his other siblings. Maybe they knew something about Amara's whereabouts. Obina was the first to answer. Chidi? Is that really you? Puharne. Obina, listen carefully, Chidi said urgently. Father's been kidnapped. We think Amara might be involved. Do you know where she is? There was a long pause. Kidnapped? Amara? What are you talking about? Chidi quickly explained the situation. Obina listened in shock. I haven't seen Amara in months, Obina admitted. Last I heard, she was mixed up with some bad people. But kidnapping? I can't believe it. We need to find her, fast, Chidi insisted. Can you reach out to Adana? Maybe she knows something. As Obina agreed and hung up, Chidi felt a wave of guilt wash over him. He had been so focused on the business, he had lost touch with his siblings completely. How had things gotten this bad? Meanwhile, Prince Uche was trying to reason with Amara. My dear, please think about what you're doing, he pleaded. This isn't you. You're better than this. Amara's eyes flashed with anger. You don't know me anymore, Father. You don't know any of us. We've had to survive on our own, with nothing. And whose fault is that? Prince Uche countered. I gave you everything, and you squandered it. I had to teach you the value of hard work. By throwing us out on the street? Amara yelled. By cutting us off completely? I never meant for it to go this far, Prince Uche said softly. I was going to bring you all back, once you had learned your lesson. Amara paused, uncertainty flicking across her face for a moment, but then she hardened again. It's too late for that now, she said coldly. You're going to transfer the money, or else. As the standoff continued, Obina had managed to get in touch with Adana. Adana, have you heard from Amara recently? He asked without preamble. Amara? No, not for ages, Adana replied, sounding confused. Why? What's going on? Obina quickly filled her in. Adana gasped in horror. Oh my God, she whispered. This is all our fault. We should have looked out for her, kept in touch. I know, Obina said grimly, but right now, we need to find her. Do you have any idea where she might be? Adana thought hard. Wait, a few months ago, I ran into one of her old friends. She mentioned Amara was hanging around with a rough crowd in Ajagunle. It's not much, but it's a start. It's something, Obina agreed. I'll tell Chidi. We need to get there fast. As Obina relayed the information to Chidi, plans were quickly made. They would go to Ajagunle and start asking around. It was a long shot, but it was all they had. Back at the hideout, tensions were rising. Prince Uche had steadfastly refused to transfer any money, and Amara was getting desperate. You don't understand, she hissed at her gang. If we don't get this money, we're finished. The people we owe, they'll kill us all. Emeka, the scarred man, stepped forward. Then maybe it's time we stop playing nice, he growled, cracking his knuckles menacingly. Amara hesitated. Despite everything, the thought of her father being hurt made her stomach churn. But what choice did she have? As she opened her mouth to give the order, there was a commotion outside. Shouts, the sound of running feet. Police! We have you surrounded. Come out with your hands up. Panic erupted in the hideout. The gang members scrambled for weapons, for exits. How did they find us? Amara screamed. Who talked? In the chaos, no one noticed Prince Uche quietly working his bonds loose. As Amara turned back to him, he sprang into action, tackling her to the ground. Amara, stop this madness, he yelled, struggling to hold her down. It's over. Outside, Chidi watched anxiously as the police prepared to storm the building. He had managed to track down Amara's location and called in the authorities, despite his initial reluctance. Please, he murmured, let them both be okay. Suddenly, the door burst open. Prince Uche emerged, half carrying, half dragging a struggling Amara. Father, Chidi cried, running forward. As the police swarmed around them, taking Amara and the other gang members into custody, Prince Uche pulled Chidi into a tight embrace. It's all right, my son, he said softly. It's over now. But as they watched Amara being led away in handcuffs, both men knew that in many ways, their troubles were just beginning. Pantori. The fallout from Amara's attempted kidnapping sent shockwaves through the family. As news spread, The other siblings were forced to confront the consequences of their actions and the bitter reality of how far they had fallen. Obinna and Adana, who had been slowly rebuilding their lives through honest work, were devastated by their sister's crime. "How could we let this happen?" Adana sobbed, sitting in Obinna's small apartment. "We're her family. We should have been there for her." Obinna nodded grimly. "We were all too caught up in our own problems. But that's going to change now. We need to stick together." Meanwhile, the twins Chidubem and Chukwuemeka were jolted out of their cycle of gambling and self-pity. "This is a wake-up call," Chidubem said, pacing their tiny room. "We can't keep living like this. We need to get our act together." Chukwuemeka agreed. Maybe it's time we swallowed our pride and asked for help. Real help, not just money." As the family grappled with these issues, Prince Uche was facing his own crisis of conscience. The shock of Amara's actions had forced him to reconsider his harsh approach. "I thought I was teaching them a lesson," he confided to Chidi, "but instead, I drove them to desperation. I've failed as a father." Chidi put a comforting hand on his shoulder. "It's not too late to make things right, father. They need you now more than ever." Prince Uche nodded slowly. "You're right. It's time to bring this family back together. But how? After everything that's happened?" "One step at a time," Chidi advised. "First, we need to help Amara. Then we'll reach out to the others." The courtroom was packed as Amara's trial began. Prince Uche sat in the front row, his face a mask of sorrow and determination. Beside him, Chidi watched the proceedings with a mixture of concern and hope. As the charges were read out, kidnapping, extortion, conspiracy, Amara stood silent, her once proud posture now slumped and defeated. When asked to enter her plea, she spoke for the first time, her voice barely above a whisper. "Guilty." A murmur ran through the courtroom. Prince Uche closed his eyes, feeling the weight of his daughter's admission. The judge looked down at Amara, his expression stern but not unkind. "Given the severity of the charges and your plea of guilty, this court sentences you to 5 years in prison, with the possibility of parole after 3 years." As Amara was led away, she glanced back at her father. Their eyes met for a brief moment, and in that look was a lifetime of hurt, regret, and a flicker of something else. Hope. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed around Prince Uche and Chidi. "Prince Uche, how do you feel about your daughter's sentencing?" "Mr. Chidi, will this affect your business empire?" Chidi stepped forward, shielding his father from the barrage of questions. "We have no comment at this time. This is a family matter, and we ask for privacy as we work through this difficult situation." As they pushed through the crowd to their waiting car, Prince Uche turned to Chidi. "We need to talk to the others. It's time to bring this family back together." Chidi nodded, already pulling out his phone. "I'll set up a meeting. But father, are you sure you're ready for this?" Prince Uche's face was set with determination. "I've never been more sure of anything in my life." Over the next few days, messages were sent, calls were made. The Uche siblings, scattered and struggling, received the summons with a mix of emotions: hope, fear, resentment, and cautious optimism. Obinna and Adana, who had been working as cleaners, received the news with trepidation. "Do you think he really wants to reconcile?" Adana asked, her voice tinged with hope and doubt. Obinna shrugged, his face weary. "I don't know. But what choice do we have? We can't keep living like this." The twins Chidubem and Chukwuemeka were more skeptical. "It's probably just another test," Chidubem grumbled. "He'll probably make us beg for scraps." Chukwuemeka wasn't so sure. "Maybe, but after what happened with Amara, things might be different this time." Meanwhile, Prince Uche was preparing for the meeting, pacing his office nervously. "What if they don't come?" he asked Chidi. "What if they hate me too much?" Chidi placed a reassuring hand on his father's shoulder. "They'll come, father. They need this as much as you do." The day of the meeting arrived. Prince Uche had chosen a neutral location, a private room in a modest restaurant. far from the opulence of his mansion. He arrived early, his heart pounding with anticipation. One by one, his children arrived. Obina and Adana came together, their clothes clean but worn. The twins shuffled in next, looking uncomfortable in their ill-fitting suits. Chidi was the last to enter, nodding encouragingly to his father. For a long moment, no one spoke. The silence was heavy with unspoken words and suppressed emotions. Finally, Prince Uche cleared his throat. "Thank you all for coming," he began, his voice thick with emotion. I owe you all an apology." The siblings exchanged surprised glances. This was not what they had expected. Prince Uche continued, his words coming faster now. "I thought I was teaching you a lesson about the value of hard work and responsibility, but I was wrong. I pushed you away when I should have guided you. I left you to struggle when I should have supported you, and for that I am deeply sorry." Tears glistened in his eyes as he looked at each of his children in turn. "Can you forgive an old man's mistake?" The room was silent for a moment. Then Adana, always the most emotional of the siblings, burst into tears and rushed to embrace her father. "Oh, Daddy," she sobbed, "we missed you so much." This broke the tension. Soon all the siblings were crowding around Prince Uche, hugging him and each other, years of hurt and resentment melting away in the face of love and forgiveness. As they all settled back into their seats, wiping away tears and sharing watery smiles, Prince Uche spoke again. "I want to make things right," he said firmly. "I want to help you all get back on your feet." But he held up a hand as he saw hope and excitement flash across their faces. "This time, we'll do it together. No more handouts. We'll work as a family to rebuild what we've lost." Obina leaned forward, his face serious. "What about Amara? She's still our sister, despite what she did." Prince Uche nodded. "Amara will have our support too. We'll visit her, help her through her sentence, and be there for her when she's released. No one gets left behind this time." As they began to discuss plans for the future, the atmosphere in the room changed. Hope replaced despair. Determination overcame defeat. The Uche family was coming back together, stronger than ever. Over the next few months, the family worked hard to rebuild their lives and relationships. Prince Uche, true to his word, didn't simply hand out money. Instead, he worked with each of his children to develop their skills and find their paths. Obina, who had always had a head for numbers, was given a junior position in the company's finance department. At first, he struggled with the long hours and complex tasks, but he was determined to prove himself. "I never thought I'd be grateful for those months of struggle," he confided to Chidi one late night at the office. "But they taught me the value of hard work in a way I never understood before." Chidi smiled, proud of his brother's progress. "That's exactly what Father hoped we'd learn. It just took us a while to get there." Adana, with her outgoing personality and knack for making connections, found her niche in public relations. She threw herself into learning the ropes, determined to help repair the family's public image after the scandal with Amara. The twins, Chidubem and Chukwemeka, took longer to find their footing. Years of gambling had left them wary of taking risks, even positive ones. But with patience and encouragement from the rest of the family, they eventually found their callings. Chidubem discovered a talent for logistics, while Chukwemeka showed promise in human resources. Throughout it all, they didn't forget Amara. Every week, a family member would visit her in prison, bringing news, encouragement, and love. At first, Amara was resistant, shame and anger making her push them away. But gradually, she began to open up. "I'm so sorry," she sobbed during one of Prince Uche's visits, "for everything. I was so angry, so desperate. I didn't know what else to do." Prince Uche held her tightly, his own tears falling. "I know, my dear, I know. But we're here now, and we're not going anywhere. We'll get through this together." As the months turned into years, the Uche family grew stronger. They faced challenges together, celebrated victories as one, and slowly but surely rebuilt the trust that had been broken. On the day of Amara's release, the entire family was there to greet her. As she stepped out of the prison gates, blinking in the bright sunlight, she was engulfed in a group hug. "Welcome home, sister," Chidi said warmly. "We've got a lot of catching up to do." Amara, overwhelmed by the love and support surrounding her, could only nod tearfully. Back at Prince Uche's mansion, now a true family home, rather than a symbol of wealth and power, they gathered for a celebration dinner. As they sat around the table, sharing food and laughter, Prince Uche raised his glass for a toast. "To second chances," he said, his voice thick with emotion, "and to family, the greatest wealth of all." As glasses clinked and cheers echoed, the Uche family knew that they had weathered the storm. They had faced their demons, learned from their mistakes, and come out stronger on the other side. The road ahead might not always be smooth, but they would face it together, united in love and understanding. The story of the Uche family spread, becoming a tale of redemption and the power of forgiveness. It inspired others facing similar struggles, showing that it's never too late to change, to make amends, and to rebuild what was lost. As night fell and the celebration wound down, Prince Uche stood on his balcony, looking out over the city. Chidi joined him, standing quietly by his side. "We did it, Father," Chidi said softly. "We brought the family back together." Prince Uche nodded, a contented smile on his face. "We did. And now, my son, we have a new challenge ahead of us." Chidi looked at him curiously. "What's that?" "To use our wealth and influence for good," Prince Uche replied. "To help other families, other communities. To make a real difference in this world." Chidi grinned, excitement building in his chest. "I like the sound of that. Where do we start?" As father and son began to plan, the future looked brighter than ever for the Uche family. They had learned the true value of wealth, not in money or possessions, but in the bonds of family and the power to make a positive change in the world. And so, as the stars twinkled above and the city hummed below, a new chapter began for the Uches. A chapter filled with hope, purpose, and the unbreakable strength of a family united.